The second prism I think that we should and can look at the challenges confronting us is to do with Iraq. Many of you know I was a soldier in a different war at a different place at a different time. There's a wall down here that has 50,000 names, and there's mothers associated with that. There are over 50,000 moms, Gold Star mothers, Gold Star dads. We have at least 4,400 who served their country and have lost their lives in Iraq. We probably have, well, not probably, we have thousands and thousands of more who are coming home with visible and invisible wounds. We probably spent $500 billion to $1 trillion with the hope, with the aspiration, with the goal that once we rid ourselves of Saddam Hussein, the emerging leadership in its own unique way, consistent with their culture, but in its own unique way, embrace the notion of self-government, human rights, tolerance, free speech, all those values associated with the American brand. Think about that sacrifice. And think about the notion that having made that sacrifice of both blood and treasure, we elevate to leadership a group of individuals in the Maliki administration that turned a deaf ear to the European Union, European Parliament, hundreds of European legislators who have denied, or rather yet unwilling to accept, the adjudication of the European Union and the UK that the MAK is not a terrorist organization, have repeatedly used, and I'm glad my friend Patrick Kennedy brought it up, who continue to use, this is the irony, the tragic irony, continue to use our designation of the MAK as justification for murdering innocent men and women on 2 occasions in 2009 and 2011. Fascinating. In the hopes that you're going to send this tape over to the White House and the Department of State, take a look at the letter that the Iraqi government has sent to the European Commission. And in this very letter, at the top of the list, it says, the organization has already been classified by the international community as a terrorist organization. There's only one reason it's there. We helped this government put it there. So to a certain extent, and I'll defer to my distinguished legal colleagues on the dais, seems to me there may be a co-conspiracy here. Unintended perhaps, but the fact of the matter, it does look like we're in collusion. And as long as we continue to designate it as a terrorist organization, they can send these documents around the world justifying, rationalizing, explaining the murder of innocent, unarmed people on 2 occasions in Camp Ashraf. I had occasion to be talking to the UN High Commissioner on Refugees about 2 weeks ago. He expressed grave disappointment and frustration with the Maliki government. But I must tell you, and I'm going to look at this through a third lens, he expressed frustration, perhaps even surprise, with the United States and its failure to act, because the continued designation has frustrated their limited efforts, because they know even if they get access, and so far the Iraqi government has denied them access, even today, Martin Kleber was told that you got to move by the Iraqi government, you must move these men and women to another location in Iraq. Beginning to wonder why we are so docile, why we are so submissive, why we are letting this administration, for whom we've sacrificed thousands of lives, and that's far more important than the treasure, but significant treasure, to tell us what to do consistent with our broader moral obligation to support humanitarian human rights and to keep our promise, which we gave individually to every member of Camp Ashraf, when we also guaranteed them protections under the Geneva Convention. That's the other interesting piece of interesting revelation over the past several days. Not only does the Iraqi government say they are going to continue to do and treat them as a terrorist organization, but they said they are not protected by the Geneva Convention. Rather remarkable statement for someone who wants to be accepted in the broader world community. It's remarkable the influence that the Iranian government seems to have in Iraq, both in the White House and as the first Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Not once, not one single time did I ever see a threat directed to the United States from any resident of or supporter of the MEK. But we, for whatever reason, continue to list them. So I've got an idea. Maliki is coming to this country on December 12th. And I really hope this tape gets to the White House. The State Department issues visas, and the Department of Homeland Security, although the visa has been issued, has the right to deny you access into this country. It's an interesting juxtaposition. One issues the visa and the other opens the door and lets you in. Well, I've got an idea. Let's set a couple conditions before we open the door. How about delisting the MEK? We're going to delist. We're going to insist that they cooperate with UN High Commissioner on Refugees. We're going to insist that the initial interviews take place in Camp Ashraf. We're going to insist that the United Nations provide security for both the UN High Commissioner and his team, as well as the residents of Camp Ashraf. And we'll insist that the United States take a leading role, not only in the form of the United Nations, but with our friends around the world, to see to it that these men and women, we must think about that and recognize it as well. Those ought to be the conditions. Delist, cooperate with the UN, keep them at Camp Ashraf, support the men and women of Ashraf with blue helmets, as well as the UN High Commissioner, and take a leadership role in getting these men and women resettled in companies who will embrace them, their families, and their belief in a non-nuclear, peaceful, tolerant Iran. You can ask any soldier or any Marine, one of the most difficult tasks on any mission is walking point. Because sometimes that individual or individuals walking point take the initial hit, they take the flak, they're the ones who encounter the enemy. But right now, on this issue, Mr. President, you have to walk point. Delist MEK and provide them the protection until the rest of the world can welcome them with open arms to promote a free, independent, non-nuclear Iran. We need a regime change, and the first place to start is to delist the MEK. Walk point, Mr. President.
We have an opportunity to reconsider our approach and improve our policy, just as we have the opportunity now to reconsider our policy toward the MEK and Camp Ashraf. As Winston Churchill once reportedly remarked, quote, "Americans can always be counted on to do the right thing after they have exhausted all other possibilities." So now, I'd say, is the time for us to do the right thing on Iran policy and on Camp Ashraf.
I was asked here today to talk to you about Iran's nuclear program, and I hope my remarks have been informative. But I want to say that over the past few days, as I prepared my comments, and today as I have listened to the other speakers, I have learned a great deal about the MEK, which I had known before, and I can now say unequivocally that I am not only a supporter of delisting, but also of the other steps that Governor Ridge and others on the panel have put forth. Thank you very much.